I'm back. Okay. So I was talking about unfulfilled expectations. You know, we have the peasantry, the working class, really driving change during World War I in 1917. So in the February Revolution, when they're protesting on the streets of Petrograd, on the Nevsky Prospect, on International Women's Day, leaving behind the factories, their workplaces, they're there for a reason. They have ideals. They want change. Because for 300 years, Tsarism has oppressed them. We have a government unable to keep pace of change with what's happening in Western Europe, with the democracies. Russia is far behind. Nicholas II will reissue his fundamental laws in 1906, even though the October Manifesto brings the hope of a constitutional parliament, and we do have the Dumas. We have 4 of them. That's 2 fours, emphasising it, not 8. After the second Duma, the Tsar will also change the electoral laws in Russia to ensure that the conservative elite are getting the seats in parliament. The nobles will have the upper hand again. So we continue this idea, these ideals, this aspiration for change. But the Bolsheviks will fight a civil war they will win. So really, we go preliminary, advanced, we have a collapse of government because Tsar Nicholas II abdicates. We have rule by moderates because the 4th Duma will be the provisional government, the temporary government set up until constituent assembly elections can be held. Series of things happen that lead us to another, that really take us backwards, to a seizure of power. We'll have an overthrow that will lead to a civil war. We will see the Bolsheviks win and consolidate their power in the civil war. They've defeated all their enemies. They have hold of the country. People have unfulfilled expectations of those ideals that they sought change for in the first place in February. And we now begin to see the rise of extremists. As much as we would like to say that Lenin strongly and purely believed in Marxism, his actions speak otherwise. The violence used in the Red Terror of the Civil War, the amount of people that they killed, I'm talking about the Cheka and the secret police, will see Lenin need to use extreme methods to stay in control. And they will continue. We see a bit of relaxing when he changes an economic policy called war communism. War communism is eradicated after the 10th Party Congress in March 1921, when towards the end of the Civil War, particularly in places like Ukraine, we're beginning to see more peasant uprisings. So he realises, he's very pragmatic, that things need to change. All right? So he introduces what is called a new economic policy, moving away from grain requisitioning, so forcibly taking grain from the peasants to fund the civil war, to feed the soldiers, etc. Among other things, like the nationalisation of banks and heavy industry. To introduce a form of capitalism, private ownership back into Russia. It leads to the rise of a group of people called kulaks, rich peasants, that will then become targeted by Joseph Stalin during the period of collectivization, and they will be killed off or sent to gulags, working camps. So Lenin is an extremist. The Bolsheviks are an extreme left-wing political party that use violence and terror to maintain control. Although we begin to see him change things, he dies. He has a stroke in 1922, which pretty much leaves him crippled, disabled. Joseph Stalin will cut off access to him. He can do that because before the stroke happened, he was made General Secretary of the Communist Party. He was given what most thought was a pretty mediocre position, but he will turn that position into a very powerful position. He will use what is available to him to begin his rise to power. So we have purges. So we have Stalin in power. We have a series of political purges. He eliminates his enemies. Those enemies include the people he fought with in the Civil War, the old Bolsheviks. There's one difference between Lenin, well, not one, I apologise, there's more, but there's a significant difference between Lenin and Stalin. One is, we could say for sure, that Lenin would never purge his own party, to a degree. There are examples of purges, but not of the Communist Party, not of the Bolsheviks. To the point where we establish a dictatorship, and we have a post-revolutionary society. And this continues until the collapse of communism in 1991. And we could perhaps say that Mikhail Gorbachev began changing things when he came to power in 1985. Okay? So this is a model of a revolution. These are features of a revolution that make it happen from above. We have two types of revolution, a revolution from below, a revolution from above. These both happen in Russia in 1 year. It's hard to believe it happens in one calendar year. It happens in the space of 8 months. Okay? And it is driven by Marxist thinking, but you can read your documentation on that.